Hey, what's up? Leonard here. In this video, I'm going to talk about my ChatGPT collaboration principles. The video is divided into 3 parts, so I'm going to start talking about what is ChatGPT for me. Then I continue talking about my principles. How do I collaborate with ChatGPT? What do I refer to? And I conclude with a little bit of criticism, talk about the ChatGPT limitations today and potential impact on us people. Now let's start. So what is ChatGPT for me? ChatGPT is a software application that enables you and I to communicate with an artificial intelligence, a large language model. Honestly, in the beginning when I started using ChatGPT, I struggled differentiating between what Google is capable of and what ChatGPT is capable of. And over time, I used a metaphor to not only explain that to myself, but also to other people. And the metaphor is about a library. So to me, both Google and ChatGPT use information coming from the same library in a way. Except for the fact that Google's information, at least until today, when ChatGPT plugins are not out yet for the public, until today, Google's information is more topical. So they have the latest information available. ChatGPT is only trained until September 2021. Now, let's say more or less both applications, Google and ChatGPT, they both have access to the same library. So in my mind, what happens when I start a Google search, when I do a Google search, a librarian is taking the information, going into that huge library of all the information of the world on the web, pretty much. And based on my search query, the librarian goes into that library and picks all the books, comes back, meets a few advertisers maybe on the way and puts their books on top of the stack, more or less, and then it gives it back to me. It all happens within seconds or milliseconds, obviously, and then I get a list of all the different links of websites that I can click onto. So on top of the list, it's the advertised websites, but you get the idea. So it's just, and then I go through the websites and have to make meaning of all the knowledge of the different websites, books that Google gave back to me. Now, if I chat with ChatGPT, in my mind, what happens there is the following. ChatGPT is there's a librarian too, all right? So let's say I do a prompt and then the ChatGPT librarian goes to the same library. However, it goes in there, picks several books too, and then what the difference is, it starts, the librarian starts reading all the books and then gives me a summary of all that knowledge that helps me, digest all the information based on my prompts much faster compared to me going through all the different websites. So this is what ChatGPT does for me. So this is the core difference in my mind, at least, to between chatting and talking to ChatGPT and doing stuff with Google. So in ChatGPT, more or less, there's an extra layer of someone or something, digesting and condensing information and, get to where I want to go, because in a way, I want to get information out of ChatGPT in a way. So much faster than using Google, if that makes sense. So it might sound a little bit complicated, but if you think of two librarians, they have access to the same library, and the one is just going in there, picking all the books, giving them back to you, and the other one is taking all the books, reading them, and giving you a summary of what's in there. That's my understanding. Turned out a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, of what's the difference between ChatGPT and Google and how the two things work. Now let's continue. Let's talk a little bit about how do I collaborate with ChatGPT. Let's start with my first principle. Any output from artificial intelligence should be critically questioned and examined with common sense. Okay, yeah, so this is pretty much the most important one to me. So this is a machine, this is a software computer. that talks to you. And how ChatGPT works, obviously it predicts the next word that it should add to the sentence it creates. So there's a high probability of it not being fully correct. And the thing is, it sometimes makes things up and it hallucinates. This is why every time what I do is, like, whatever output comes out of ChatGPT, I would look at it and question it critically. Now the second piece. If I have a problem where I know the goal, ChatGPT can provide me the structure for the path to the goal. Oh yeah. So that's pretty simple. Imagine you'd have to, or like there was an example, I'd have to give a speech in 2 weeks about a certain topic, climate change. And like I knew the audience a little bit, and I knew that the audience was a little bit skeptical of some parts of that topic, obviously. So this was my challenge, this was my problem. And then I started using ChatGPT, asked it to give me a structure, like told it about the audience, and asked it, to give me a structure for the speech, but also to tailor it a little bit towards the audience. And it helped me tons. And like it obviously didn't write the full speech for me, but it helped me, let's say, with 80% of the journey, which is tremendous and saved me a lot of time and a lot of headaches. And what's the third piece there? I do not share any sensitive personal or business information with ChatGPT. Yeah, so that's a core principle too. There's another video out there. It's called like my personal code of ethics when I chat with ChatGPT, or when I interact with an AI. This relates to that in a way, but my core principle there is don't share any name in relation to like particular information or any sensitive business information. Okay, so the next one, ChatGPT is a reasoning model, not a fact generation model. This is pretty simple to understand in my opinion, based on the Google ChatGPT library example that I gave. So ChatGPT is not particularly good at listing facts. Google is much better at that and will continue to be, in my opinion, in the near future. However, this is why you should rather see ChatGPT 2 as a not only reasoning model, but rather as an assistant, as a hyper intelligent assistant, as a sparring partner, as a co-pilot that helps you get somewhere, but like that, that's that based on conversation too. So you need to tell ChatGPT very precisely what you want from it. So this is how it works, and then it gives you back the output based on its reasoning style, and it's not just a list of facts. And then the last one on this page, I do not expect the output to be 100% accurate. 80% is enough for me. So in regards to that, like what I have learned from experimenting with ChatGPT and what I heard other people say about it is, obviously there might be misinformation coming out of that or incorrect stuff. However, if you remember what I was talking about in regards to preparing that speech, it helped me do 80% of the work. I wasn't expecting it to do all 100%. However, if, let's say, normally I'd spend 10 hours preparing for giving a speech, and then ChatGPT helps me save 8 hours of these 10, so 80%. That'd be totally fine for me. I'd happily work on the last 2 hours, if that makes sense to you. And then on the second page, I see ChatGPT as a tool to support my own thinking and writing, as a sparring partner or a co-pilot for my brain. Yeah, so this is pretty much it. So these days, what I use ChatGPT for a lot is to challenge my own thinking, even, or to brainstorm a lot, or to share ideas that I have and ask it to build on these ideas, or to come up with like opposite ideas, or like in a nutshell, I actually treat ChatGPT as like a machine with, let's say, human capabilities in terms of communication. It is as if my best friend sat there on the couch and I could share whatever topic I'd want to discuss, and my best friend would be like hyper intelligent and could, summarize lots of text and all of that. So this is in a way how I treat ChatGPT. Hope that makes sense. And then the second one, the ChatGPT system rewards experimentation. From my perspective, it's not about finding the one perfect prompt. This is really important. This has helped me a lot over the past months. So I'd say don't expect it to be perfect. Don't expect or don't be too harsh on yourself in terms of not knowing what the perfect prompt is. I'd say if you're used to like a learning by doing principle, then you will have a lot of fun with like using ChatGPT in your day-to-day life and collaborating with ChatGPT in your day-to-day life, because it's totally not about the one perfect prompt. If you think of it as an assistant, as someone that aids you in becoming better at your thinking or your communication or your writing and so on. It's totally not. You need to be a little bit sensitive in terms of how you communicate with the machine, I'd say. But like be courageous and experiment, and don't expect it to be perfect, and don't have too high standards like of your prompting abilities. All right, then the second to last one, AI will not take your job. The person that uses AI will. Now, you might have heard of that over the past months. This particular sentence or quote, I think, will become much truer than people expect it to become. And I personally see, like, for the next 2 to 5 years maybe, or longer, no one would perhaps forecast any longer time in that space. So 2 to 5 years is even very long. Now, I'd say there will be a time when humans and machines collaborate with each other heavily. And this is what I mean when I talk about collaborating with ChatGPT. Like, it will not replace anyone anytime soon in any profession, in my opinion. However, people that figure out how to communicate effectively with that technology will be, much quicker and richer in, the quality of things that they create. And this is what hides behind this quote, in my opinion. And then your own expertise counts and helps with the initial prompt. All right, so this is interesting. I'll give you an example. So there's one video that I created that is about salary negotiation. And from my experience, I know that Chris Voss is brilliant provides brilliant principles when it comes to negotiation in general. And so I created a prompt saying, hey, I need to prepare for salary negotiation. And can you please, in your output, incorporate Chris Voss's thinking and experience and, make me use his principles, but also teach me how to use his principles and all of that. And like ChatGPT did it. So what I mean by that is the more you know, like from real life, from your past, and the more you integrate that into like your prompts, into your collaboration with ChatGPT, it'll help you to be a very effective communicator with it. All right, and then let's talk a little bit about the criticism regarding ChatGPT. What is yet to be answered? ChatGPT's output is not fully reliable yet. I've talked about that. Like, we don't really know what kind of data the model behind ChatGPT, so at the moment GPT-4, is trained on. Yeah, and there are more unanswered questions, really. However, this is why kind of building or coming up with your own trust building is so important. In my opinion, the more time you spend collaborating with the tool, the more trust you build, the more you understand, okay, this is probably an area where it'll make up information. This is probably an area where it'll be very good at reasoning and be very nuanced and everything. So like I'm not sure if there's any shortcut for not spending, time and figuring out how this tool works. So this is what I would encourage you to do until more questions get answered. And then what are ChatGPT's limitations? It might produce false facts, wrong information. Fair, we talked about it. It might hallucinate while being convincing. Yeah, it might be bad at producing facts. It's no Google. We talked about it. ChatGPT is biased, so the data had to be, kind of tagged for the model like to learn and everything. So there's kind of a bias in there by default. There's no access to real-time data just for now. Again, ChatGPT plugins will be released soon. And then ChatGPT only knows stuff until September 2021. That's fair. Yeah, and much more even. All right. So let's talk very briefly and quickly about ChatGPT's potential impact. And I won't go too much into detail here. So I question a lot and I wonder and think a lot about what economic impacts will the use of technologies like ChatGPT have? And a lot of people do, obviously. And then will there be a gap in society between people who use AI and those who do not use the tools? So this goes in the direction of AI will not replace you, someone who uses AI will. And if you think about it, everybody talks about ChatGPT gaining users in terms of I think 100 million users within the first month or month and a half. And 100 million divided by 8 billion, which is the world's population, is less than 2%, I think. So even though it's a huge, huge number, only very few people know about it and use it. And I'm really impressed by its capabilities and the sparks that are in using ChatGPT. So I'm really wondering about what that will do to society. And then how do we maintain critical evaluation of information among people? So I think one of the major skills in the future will become how to think critically, how to evaluate information. And then how do we help our children navigate in a world where the use of artificial intelligence becomes normal? Wait, that's an interesting one. I certainly haven't answered that yet. What value will knowledge have in the coming years? I mean, I recently heard something or someone say something about knowledge, and even though we have access to Google, even though we now have access to ChatGPT and pretty much all the world's knowledge in a nutshell and at our fingertips, there's a difference between knowledge and being educated and education. So you still need to connect the dots and everything. And I think ChatGPT can be a tremendous helpful tool in connecting the dots, especially in education. And then, which areas of life are transforming the fastest? I'm really interested in that too. I can see several areas, but also there have only been little sparks yet. They have not proven. They have not really proven, full transformation yet, obviously. All right, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this one.